Okay, let's get started. For everybody who's new, I will do a short introduction. So my name is Helene Peters. I am the editorial coordinator at 7 Insider. Welcome, and we are happy to see that you are joining us tonight on this session together with World Press Photo. With us today, we have Anna Lena, who's the contest director for World Press Photo, and Anush, who was the World Press Photo Long-Term Projects Award winner last year with her series Battered Water. They will give us a presentation. They will run us through the contest entry process and share some insights on how to best submit your work. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box below, and they will answer them during the presentation or afterwards. And then I hand it over to you, Anna Lena and Anush.
Thank you. And probably good to say again that because I just confused everyone to say hello in the chat, but you want all the questions in the Q&A box, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
The questions aren't in the chat.
No, the questions will be in the Q&A box. Very important, because we lose questions in the chat very easily. That's why we use the Q&A box.
So first of all, I'm going to take you through the contest and how to enter the contest. And then we will also have time to answer all your questions, and we're going to look at Anush's work and try to give you as many tips and advice as we can. And first, I want to tell you about our new regional contest model. 2 years ago, we've developed a new strategy for the organization, putting our focus more on the world in our name. And we're implementing this model to all our activities in order to increase regional balance and better represent this world. And you can see on these graphs why that is needed. These are the numbers from this year. So when we started 2 years ago, the underrepresented regions were even smaller than here. But you can see that South America, Southeast Asia, and Oceania, and Africa are underrepresented in terms of entries, and especially when you compare it to European entries. Also, look at the gender of the entrants, shows that 3/4 of the entrants are male, and about this year we had 31.3% female entrants and 1.19% non-binary. And actually I have to say, so this is not enough. But we're the last few years, the last 8 years, we've been working on more female entrants. And 8 years ago, we had 13% of female entrants, and now we already brought it up to 21, which I'm proud of already, but we're still working on it, and we still want to increase that number. So we decided to work with 6 world regions: Africa, Asia, Europe, North and Central America, South America, and Southeast Asia and Oceania. And we looked at many different ways to divide the world into regions based on number of inhabitants, based on geography, based on the political situation, etc. And in the end, we chose a geographic division that is very close to the division of continents in the world, and also based on the classification of regions according to the United Nations. We did realize when we looked into this that grouping the world's countries into regions is very complex and no division will be perfect. And at the end of the day, our core goal is to increase the diversity of voices and stories amongst our winners and entrants. And we hope that this regional model will enable this. Important to know is that for the entries to our contest, the regions refer to the place where the photos have been taken, and they will be judged in the region they have been taken in. And I have a few quotes from jurors from this year about what they felt the regional contest model, how it worked. And our global jury chair, Brent Lewis, said, with the second year of the new format, we saw this brilliant gathering of regional juries that understand and can emphasize the issues in their regions. Angela Jimiu from our African jury said, as a jury, we needed to address a key issue. What is the Africa we want to show to the world? How do we strike a balance between showing the realities on the continent, realities such as the effects of the climate crisis or armed conflict, without reinforcing stereotypes? So that's something that this jury discussed a lot, actually. And Felipe Dana from the South America jury, and all of them were also in the jury that chose the winners. He said, as members of the South America jury, we had a unique opportunity to concentrate on topics and stories that were relevant to our region, and especially those that could contribute to narratives in meaningful ways and bring attention to issues that are often overlooked and which may not have received the attention they deserved on a global stage. This is the global jury for this year, which we've just announced yesterday. And each of the regional jury chairs that you see on the lower row have their own jury with consisting of 5 members for their region, and then all these jury chairs come together in this global jury that's chaired by Fiona Shields from The Guardian, to decide on the winners in all the regions, the final selection of the winners. So what categories can you enter your work into? We're working with single stories, long-term projects, and open format. And we are working with these categories because once we've chosen the regions, we realized that we don't need to determine themes for the jury anymore, but that we will get entries that are shot in the region and are selected by a jury from the region, and the themes that are important will surface regardless. And also many stories often touch on more than one theme. All these categories welcome entries that document news moments, events, and aftermath, as well as social, political, and environmental issues, or also solutions. So singles are single frame photographs, and they must have all been taken in 2023 to be entered into this next contest. Stories can be 4 to 10 single frame photographs, and they must have been shot in 2022 or 2023, but at least 6 of them must be from this year. And with long-term projects, where you can enter stories of 24 to 30 single frame photographs, and they must be from at least 3 different years. That makes them a long-term project, and must contain a minimum of 4 photographs that were shot in 2023. And then there's the open format category, which is for innovative techniques, for more non-traditional modes of presentation and new approaches to storytelling. The important thing is that the main visual content of the project, the core of the project, must be still photography. And they must have been either produced or first published in 2023. In all the 6 regions, the jury would judge all 4 categories of entries shot in that region, and that leads to a total of 24 regional winners. And from those 24 winners, the 4 global winners are chosen. So the photo of the year, the story of the year, the open format award, and the long-term project award. Next to choosing the prize winners, the jury can appoint 1 honorable mention per region as well. That it's for work that deserves special recognition. So the judging takes place in several rounds. It involves the regional juries and the global jury, and it takes place both online and offline. And the offline bit takes place here in Amsterdam for the global jury, and we're also working with regional partners. Last year we had a jury in Bangladesh, the Asia jury, coming together. And this year we have a live jury in Johannesburg with our partner there, Market Photo Workshop. Each of the regional juries is composed of 5 professionals from that region, and has with a range of expertise, and so with the knowledge of the region that each jury member has. Their discussions and deliberations are informed by their political, social, and cultural understanding of that region. So they make the first selection in the first few rounds of the judging, and this is the Africa jury from the last contest. And the Southeast Asian Oceania jury, and then this is the global jury here in Amsterdam. So the 6 chairs of the regional juries and the chair of the global jury. And as I said, they will decide on all the winners. And we also did that so that they have an overview of how the winners in the different regions compare to each other. Now, the purpose of the judging process is, of course, to select and reward accurate and visually compelling photojournalism and documentary photography of the past year. And during their deliberations, the jury will consider visual quality. So this can include creativity, their technical skill, and their visual style, and also for stories, the edit of the story. And they will look at the story itself. So the issue or story that is covered in the photograph or photographs, the relevance or the significance, and also the way in which the photographer has chosen to approach the story. And then thirdly, representation plays a role, and that refers to the importance of awarding a diverse range of stories and also photographers. And just quick insight into what information is given to the jury. So in the first round, there's no information about the photographer. It's just a look at the entries themselves, and so just the photos. And then from the second round onwards, they get information about the nationality of the photographers, where they're based and for how long, and their gender. And then from round 4 onwards, they will also get more information about the motivation of the photographer to work on the project, whether the project was personally funded or an assignment, and what type of project it is. Why should you enter the contest? Well, first of all, entering is for free. Secondly, I always say if you don't enter, you also cannot win. And some people enter and never expect to win, and yet they win. So you should always enter. And then you can win prize money as a regional winner and more as a global winner. Also, you can attend the winners event we have in Amsterdam, where we create for the winners networking opportunities. You can share your work in live events. This is our exhibition in Amsterdam during the winners visit, where the winners talk about their work. It's then in front of their work. And there's lectures during the winners visit. And also you can, of course, connect with the other fellow winners and photographers from all over the world. Here you see them all in front of our exhibition location. And then there's the award celebration itself, where we hand out the awards and diplomas. Also, in the remainder of the year, winners are often invited to exhibition openings, for example, if there's one in their own region. Often there's interviews as well and other events that they're being invited to. Of course, the winning work is also being featured in our yearbook. And it's traveling to all our annual exhibition locations. This year that was over 80 cities or locations around the world. And of course, and this is also very big, we showcase your work on our online channels. Stop the share so we can bring Anush into the talk as well. Anush was the winner of the long-term project in Asia this year. And I wanted to start with asking you why you thought? What were the reasons that made you decide that you wanted to enter this project to the contest last year?
Well, thank you for the presentation, Anna Lena. That was very informative. And well, about the work, about the Battered Waters project. One of the most important reasons was that I wanted to this work to be seen. And I still believe and see that stories out of Central Asia are not shown enough. There aren't many deep projects happening there, while these are 4 large countries where I worked in Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. And I wish more could be seen and reported on from these countries. And so when applying to the World Press Photo, that was one of my main ideas, that if this actually happens, I could the project would be seen mostly through the exhibitions and talks and presentations. And this is what happened, as you also mentioned, more than 80 exhibitions around the world, and opportunities for me to talk about this work and present this project in different locations where the exhibition is happening. This has been really incredible for this story. And it has been a bigger exposure than the publications have allowed me.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then apart from this project specifically, I've applied to the World Press Photo, I don't know how many times, maybe 7 or 8 times. I always try. Actually, most of the time it was my work from Nagorno-Karabakh. But yeah, but and the idea for me was, it was just one of my responsibilities while building my career. Just one of the things that I have to do. And if it happens, then it's great, and not just for me, but it allows me to serve my purpose better. That's just part of my job. So that's
so a big part is sharing the story that you've reported on, and then it's also for yourself to elevate your career really, and just take that chance of potentially winning.
Yeah. Exactly. It's very, it changes a lot in one's career. That's true.
Nice. Let's take a look at your story. And if you want to tell us what the story is about while I show it. Nice.
Yeah, sure. Well, as mentioned, it was photographed in Central Asia, and these are stories of water management, of collaboration and cooperation, or lack of cooperation between the 4 countries that I mentioned. But the foundation of this story are the people who are right there on the ground, living along those rivers or lakes or bodies of water, and people who suffer the consequences of decisions made beyond them, very far away from them. And this is not only a story about water management, but also the changing climate and the environment. And this is a long-term project. So what the general project consists of separate individual stories that all unite under this overall story of how people's lives are affected by changes in the environment that are in their turn created by human activity. Yeah, so that's the main idea. It's a layered project, and it wasn't easy to create, but yeah, took some time, but it happened.
Yeah, so you worked on several different stories within the project, and then you merged it together as a long-term story?
Yes. I mean, the idea with the project was always one from the very beginning. The idea was to travel to those 4 countries of Central Asia and to put it together into one story. Yeah, but because of so many locations and stories, it wasn't easy to edit the project and to sequence it. And yeah, it took a long while. It took some conversations with friends. I had a great session with Sarah Lean, who I can see here. Hi, Sarah. Who gave me the great idea to sequence it by country. So first, I think we begin with Kyrgyzstan and then Kazakhstan, then yeah, the other two countries, and that was a great idea. And it also wasn't easy because then you don't really have the liberty of putting any picture that you feel can visually you follow the other. But it was possible because after all, I'm the photographer, and so the images do speak to one another. Yeah, and then the sequencing, of course, really follows some idea of context as well, and it's not only visual but also contextual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell everyone what the jury thought about this project as well. So they were saying that it was obviously it was a very strong visual project, and it delved into a complex and multi-layered story about the varied impact of climate change in Central Asia, as you said. And they were saying that you, as a photographer, stayed clear of regional cliches and very thoughtfully represented the water struggles, about the scarcity of the water, by showing people's diverse relationships to and the uses of water in its various forms. And that there was a very smooth connection of images across countries that are all united by the same struggles. And that was just visually beautiful, dynamic, and demonstrated a very thoughtful edit. So definitely everything that you said was seen by the jury as well, and all the work you put into it. That's
too kind. That was too kind to read when I first saw that comment.
Nice. So Anush, after you had won the award and you attended the Witness program in Amsterdam as well, and you saw your story in the exhibition and you were pitching stories to photo editors from around the world. There was the public program day and obviously receiving the award and the whole group of the winners. What did you get out of the visit for yourself?
Well, I guess it will not be surprising to you if I say that it's one of the most exciting experiences was where the friendships that were built through this week. The photographers are all incredible professionals, but also amazing human beings. So we made, we connected greatly, and there were really interesting conversations, not only between us photographers, but also with the editors. Yeah, I think I learned a lot. And then when we all entered the church in the center of Amsterdam and saw this incredible exhibition, it's just a touching experience. You know, after you work for years and years, I think I have maybe like 12 or 13 years into this career. This moment is 1 week of appreciation for what you've done, and the award, the two awards, the global one I dropped a couple of times. Not a light one. Yeah, it felt special, and is this milestone after which, you know, we go back and we keep working, and it's just very good to have it, because without those moments in our lives, in our careers, we don't always keep going. You know, it can be easy to give up when you don't feel that your stories actually work out, can make a difference. So,
yeah,
an important week.
For sure.
We all left with so much gratitude. Yeah,
that's so good to hear. And did something change? And you don't have to say yes, but did something change for you afterwards? In your professional life, or?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, there are things that I will never know that happened, but among those that I do know of are, of course, the several talks, presentations that I had about this project as part of the exhibitions, and a couple of publications of this project. And first of all, the belief in my in my head that, okay, this was a project worth doing, and let me go on, I do want to go on working on stories of water management in the same region. Yeah, so it was
Great.
important.
Yeah, very good to hear. Okay, we'll also want you to take a look at some more winners from the last contest, and I would tell you a bit more about why the jury chose them as winners, and so you get a bit more of an idea of the other stories. This is, I'm showing you a couple of images from the winning long-term project in Southeast Asia and Oceania. It's from Kimberly de la Cruz, and it's called Death of a Nation. It's about the drug war in the Philippines, which is a topic that the jury has seen tackled numerous times. However, this project resonated with them because it was slow and subtle and from a very underreported perspective. The images show survivors of the issues of the crimes there, as well as their profound grief. And that's very apparent on the many faces that you see in the story. And also there was a very intentional choice of centering around the experience of families in the story. And yeah, very successfully highlights the consequences of how the country was led, and how the social fabric of life in the Philippines is forever altered. And then the last one I want to show you is the open format winner for Africa, Mohammed Mahdi. Here the Doors Don't Know Me is the title. And it's a web-based photo project that stood out for taking advantage of the range of available tools to tell a unique story about a community of fisher folk in Alexandria in Egypt. What the jury liked was the project's seamless package of images. There's also audio if you look at the website, handwritten texts, maps, and drawings that elevated the already very good selection of photographs. And the jury was also very impressed by the photographer's thorough research that he had done and the engagement with the images, which just resulted in a holistic story and gave the audience really the opportunity to visualize and to interact with the issue there. So when you prepare for an entry, Anush, how do you decide which images you put into your edit?
Oh, well, that's something that I just mentioned as well. It's not an easy thing to do, but with the long-term project, when you have 30 images, when you're allowed 30 images, that can be at least easier than like trying to fit it into 10 or 15 images as it often can be in contests. So that was possible. And yeah, the sequencing was what was the most important. Strong images, individually strong images matter greatly, but there should also be a logic and smoothness and just feeling in the sequence itself, the way your project runs, and it's a bit like music. When you go through it, you should feel it. And yeah, so that's something that matters, and it's not easy. So it's a good thing to talk to people, to not too many, but you know, a photographer, an editor, someone like Sarah Lean, for example. It's, you know, maybe it's possible to book a session with her if she has the availability and willingness to look at your project, maybe. And talk about it with an editor. You don't have to do everything on your own, and yeah, and then submit. It's important. A lot of times we don't really see what needs to be seen on our own.
For sure. And I would also say, if you don't know editors, that you can ask this, because not everyone might do, then it can even help to show, your friends, one of your friends or someone, ideally someone who knows something about photography, but even if not, just show them tell them what you want to show, and show them what you've selected, and then see if that resonates, and if you're actually able to tell that story that you want to tell in your pictures. That can also already help a lot.
Yeah, and that will allow you to let go of the images that you feel like your heart is close to, but might not be strong enough. Just it will really improve the editing and the overall sequence.
Yeah.
And Anna Lena, I wanted to also ask you, in my turn, about the judging process. How could you maybe take us through the judging process, how it is set up, the first and the second round, and maybe then what the jury is looking for in the images, in the stories?
Yeah, of course. So I already showed quickly what information the jury gets, but what is really important to know in the first round, so when they look at all the entries, is that they look at the photos only. It is just a selection for the visual quality, and no other information is available then. And they usually look at each photo for a few seconds. In stories, it goes even quicker. So it's really important that they're memorable in some ways, so that they select them and are interested, are triggered enough to want to put it into the next round and get to know more about it. Because then from the second round onwards, there's also a short caption available that describes the who, what, when, where of the story that they see. And then they can take it forward to the next rounds until they get even more information about the whole, like the motivation of the photographer and why they worked on the story and where they're from and how they're connected to the subjects and the topic. So I think that's really important to keep in mind also when you're preparing your entry, in terms of what you're saying, the editing, the sequencing. How do you start the story? How do you end it? And what impression does it make on people when they view it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you were saying what is the jury looking for? So I think something memorable. I already said, obviously they're looking for visual quality, they're looking for relevant stories, significant stories. But I think often I hear them talk about, and sometimes they have different abbreviations. A lot of juries are talking about they have to be relevant, they have to be unique, and they have to be memorable. So they don't want to see, because what we also see a lot is similar stories to something that's already won, or the jury really are looking for something that's unique to them, that they haven't seen before. Like when the jury goes like, wow, I have never seen a photographer show it in this way, that always usually means that they're forwarded to the next rounds just to get to know more about it and see if it's really what they think it is. And so I think those three words are really good to keep in mind, that it's relevant, it's unique, and it's also memorable. It's something that they will still remember after having seen thousands of images.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Is there something, Anush, that you would want to tell entrants to take into account, like any tips that they should be aware of when they prepare the entry or enter themselves?
Any tips? Well, my main tip, I mean, if I think of myself entering, my tip to myself would be not to doubted and for sure to enter it. That's the first thing I would think of, because we like to put a lot of things in our heads that don't really belong. Clear your head, enter your work, but enter with a bit of an objective mind. Again, as we discussed, not to think of what you really love and your experience when taking the photo, but try to look at the story objectively and make sure that the images are strong and relevant. And what can I say? If we're photojournalists working in locations that have been active, where other photographers have also been going, such as Ukraine, such as this year, earlier it was Nagorno-Karabakh, and now just recently Israel. In Palestine, there are photographers who are right there, not to thing that there are already other people there submitting, working more professional than I am, to disregard those thoughts and just to submit. And we have really nothing to lose, and it doesn't take too much time. That's important as well. It's an easy process.
That's very good to hear. And I would definitely also want to underline that it's important to enter your work, and you can always give it a try, and you never know what's going to happen with it. And as I said, we had winners before that totally didn't expect it to win, and then they won one of the main prizes, and that can just happen. So indeed, don't feel like there's better work out there, or don't compare yourself too much with others. It's good to just take that chance and enter it. Yeah. And what we even do, what I think a lot of people appreciate, is that we let people know if they made it to a certain round, which also helps them to sometimes, we also see people entering the same story that they work on for a longer time, for several years, and they perfectionize it more for themselves, and because they know they made it past round 3, for example, so they know there's something really interesting in there for the jury, but it's maybe not quite there yet. So even in those terms, it can help to enter. And also our juries, the regional juries and the global jury, are also really interested in just seeing what work is out there apart from the winners. We often have jurors who write down entry codes to ask us after the judging if they can get contact details of the photographers, because they want to be in touch with them and maybe publish their work, or maybe assign them work, just because they've seen something that interests them. So it's also even a platform for that for many people, which I think is we probably don't mention enough.
Yeah, this is great to know. Well, you've mentioned so much already. I was going to ask you about some practical tips that you could provide to the photographers thinking to enter. You've already said so much, but if there's anything else practical that could be helpful. Yeah,
one thing is to, if you do want to enter on time, well before the deadline, because we see 80% of all the entries are coming in the last 3 days before the deadline. So that's 40, 50,000 images in the last few days. And then if something goes wrong, or you have a problem, or you have questions, we're flooded with questions the last 3 days. So really, we have a lot more time to answer whatever, if you have issues or questions before. And so just be smart and enter early. And the contest is open already. It's open for 6 weeks, and just go for, edit carefully, make a careful selection of what you want to enter. There's no limit to what you can enter. You can enter as many singles and stories as you want to, but do make a careful selection of your best work and edit it very well. And then also important, maybe I can just quickly, I think I have another slide on this. Now that we're talking about it. And I think there was also a question coming in about eligibility. So I'll quickly say something about if you haven't taken part in a contest before, So once you've entered the contest and you've shown that you're a professional photographer, then you can just log in the next year to the contest platform and you can just enter your work. If it's the first time, then you have to enter a document, upload a document that shows your professional status somehow. So easiest thing is if you have a press card that also mentions that you're a photographer. You can also send in proofs of publications. So that could be tear sheets. They need to be from the last 2 years. And they need to have your name on it. And that could be from any recognized media organization or publication, either online or in print format. You can also upload union membership cards of journalistic or photojournalistic unions or photographic associations. It's also good often if you don't have all of these to ask for a letter of recommendation or letter of reference by someone you've worked with, a photo editor from a photo agency or a media or publication that can state that you've worked for them as a photographer. And if there's other ways you can show that you've done professional photographer work, then we're also happy to look at that. So that is good to keep in mind. And the question we had.
Yeah, actually, the very first question sort of, I think, relates to what you mentioned, if I understand it correctly.
I think so too. I think the question is, if you've entered many years, do you have to provide a new document? So generally, if you've entered before, you can enter again. But if it was a long time ago, then every few years, we sort of do a reset and want to recheck if people are still working as professional photographers.
Okay, there's a second question that I don't really understand. By entries, do you mean the region the photographer comes from or the region the project represents? Oh, okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not where the photographer comes from.
Just a quick reminder to our audience to drop your questions in the Q&A box. We have a few more good 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box below.
Yes, please. And so the next question was about entries, and it's not about the region that the photographer comes from. It's about where the photographs have been shot. So that's why Anush's project, which has been shot in different countries, but in our regional division, they're all belonging to, or most of them are belonging to Asia. And that's why her work was judged in the Asian jury. So it does not matter where you come from in that sense, but it is something that the jury can see at some point. So they were also, that's why we asked entrants to write something about their motivation to work on something. So the jury does get to know when someone has been living somewhere for 5 or 10 years and really has been grown into a community that they do a project about. That is important knowledge for the jury. But, you know, just as much are people who are going to places just for an assignment that can also make amazing work, of course, but it's good to have that context for the jury. And then there's a question about the eligibility. What's the definition of a documentary photographer? Because it's a vast and broad criterion. Does the term documentary photographer apply to those that have not published or earned part or all of their incomes of photography, etc.?
Well, I suppose with your slide right here, you're answering that question. These are the
criteria.
According to which you can understand whether you're a professional photographer.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, it says here indeed, but so you don't have to earn your main incomes through photography, for example, but you must have at least then a proof of publication from the last 2 years. But if you had one photo published in a recognized publication, then that is already enough, because then you have published work recently. That answers the question. Does your press card count for college news publication? That's a difficult one to answer because it depends a little bit. Not necessarily is probably the answer, because it needs to be a publication that is independent. So it's not something where you can like upload your own work and would definitely be published, for example, when it's like a student news outlet, for example. So that's something that we need to look into more individually, but you can always email us about it, or you can just do your registration on the contest platform and upload it, and then we will get back to you and see if we need more proof of from you or not. Let's see, then someone's asking, what are the most common mistakes that can disqualify an entry? Well, we're already checking for a lot of things while you upload your work. I think it's important to pay attention to, if you upload stories or long-term projects or open format entries, how many images must be from the contest year. So in this case, from 2023. Because in long-term projects, for example, it must be 4 images from this year. And then some people, they see on the website that they can't submit if there's only 3 images from 2023, and then they change the date to 2023, which of course doesn't mean that we're still going to check that. So make sure that the dates are right. Also make sure that you have looked at our manipulation guidelines on our website, and they explain. We also have videos showing what is allowed and what not. So that can definitely disqualify your entry if you're not adhering to the post-production guidelines we're setting. So there's a few things that are definitely no-goes that you should avoid by just being prepared for it.
And I guess it's important to know that at some point, if the pictures move forward up the rounds, then the World Press Photo requests the raw files as well. And, if any manipulation cannot be detected before that, at this stage, it will be really seen or obvious. Yeah, so that's important to realize.
Yes. So exactly, that's why it's important to know what the guidelines are beforehand and to double check that you're not crossing those lines.
Yeah.
I'm a multimedia journalist and not an outright photographer, but I do have quite a few published articles, graphics, maps, etc. Would these links do? They do have to be photography. They do have to contain photography if it's more multimedia work, because also this is only possible to enter in our open format category, and the core of the projects have to be still photography, lens-based still photography. So in that sense, that wouldn't be enough now. There's a question about captions. I'm just seeing. No, sorry, I don't have it in this presentation. So we do have a whole captions page on our website as well. Captions are really important, and we're asking for a short, sort of 1 sentence caption of who, what, when, where. And then a longer project description where you can also talk more about the why and how you approach the project, and give more background and context. So that's the format we prefer to receive it in. And that's also what, so the jury will start with a short caption when they still have a lot of entries in the second round, and then as the entries progress, there will be more information from the longer project description that they will see and take into account. Captions should ideally be in English, but it's also totally fine to just do a Google Translate and paste that into the captions box.
I just added the web page where there's a bit of additional information on and guidance on captions
Nice, thank you.
in the chat. Okay.
And then there's another question about showing that you're a professional photographer. If you don't have any of the requirements, is there an alternative way? So we're very open to other ways. I mean, there's people saying like, oh, I had an exhibition or I had some form of publication. We also do recognize that some photographers increasingly are their social media or the social media of other organizations are like their main publication platform. So we're also always willing to look into other ways to show that you're a professional photographer. So yeah, you can always try if you don't have one of these. The easiest way is often to try and get a letter of reference from someone you've worked with in that professional context as a photographer. And then there's a question about photos that have been edited or merged. Is that not the intention? Only photos that reflect reality. Yes, so I mean, edited is one. So I already talked about post-production, and we have very strict guidelines on that. I think here, this is more a question about merging images, for example, is not allowed in the single stories and long-term projects categories. But in open format, it's an open format category. So the idea is that you can also have merged images, or you can have sort of collages, or you can also add audio or video. There's also websites that are being entered, but they must all also contain still photography that are real. So I think that answers the question. And also very important actually to keep in mind for the open format projects that you do enter is to tell us everything you've done. So if you have merged images, it should be in your project description. So anything you've done to change them and the way you've worked on it creatively must be disclosed in the project description. Does the jury have the possibility to edit or remove pictures from a story to make it better? They wish they would, I have to say. Every jury is trying this every year. Like, can we just take this one image out? It's like one image where there's an arm that they want to cut out or crop out or take the whole photo out. Something's in the way, something they don't like. But no, they're not allowed to. This is up to the entrant to make the right edit. And they're also selecting it for the edit. So they're not allowed to make it better. What they are allowed to, the next question I see, they are allowed to take one picture from a story and put it into the singles category if they feel very strongly for one picture, but don't like the edit of the story, or I'm not saying don't, maybe they also like the edit of the story, but feel one picture is extremely important to take forward, then they're allowed to do that. And yeah. Panoramas do count as merged images, yes. So they wouldn't be allowed in the three other categories, only in the open format category.
What about panoramas taken on a panoramic film camera? Do you know like there's this Kodak cameras that have this panoramic film, like one film, one picture.
Yes, and then scanned, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, so in some cases it could be possible. Yeah, but not if they're merged images. So that could be either in camera or in post-production. But there's sometimes exceptions to those rules when you have certain equipment.
Yeah, I think the panorama taken on an iPhone would be merged.
Yeah. Exactly, I think so too. So I think it really depends on the technology. So if you have a very specific question about it, you can always email us about it. But I believe so as well in case of the iPhone, for example. But there is also panoramic pictures. We had winners in the past that had panoramas that were made in one frame, basically. And so they were not merged images. I just see on my list here on tips to prepare your entry that a lot of people think that photos must have been published that they entered, but that's not the case. So you show us that you've published work, you're working as a professional photographer, but then what you enter doesn't have to be published already.
Thank you for answering all those questions, Anna Lena.
Yes, and I think we've answered them all.
Yes, I think so too. Thank you, Anush and Anna Lena and everyone in the audience for sharing your questions with us. And I think it has been very insightful, and I hope it encourages people who are watching this to submit their work when they have something to show.
I hope so too. And if you have questions, please email us. I'm not sure. I forgot, obviously, to put our email address in here, but it's contest@wordpressphoto.org. And you find it on our website as well.
Yes, you can also write it in the chat maybe, so people can see it before they leave.
Yeah, I will do that now.
Great. Okay, we hope everybody in the audience enjoyed this session with WordPress Photo. Thank you so much for Anna Lena and Anush for taking your time and sharing your work. I think it's always very interesting to see also the behind the scenes of a jury process, and especially to learn that, for example, in the first round, the jury only gets to see the images. I think that's a very good tip for photographers who are entering the competition. That's it for us tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in another session shortly. Have a good night.
Thank you for organizing. Bye.
Bye.